The Richardson family's private dining room at the Four Seasons felt colder than usual that morning. Maybe it was the October chill seeping through the floor-to-ceiling windows, or maybe it was the icy stares from my father-in-law and his board members as I opened my laptop to begin the quarterly financial presentation. My name is Emily Chen Richardson, and for the past 5 years, I've been the CFO of Richardson Global Investments, one of Boston's most prestigious private equity firms. I'm also the person who discovered that someone had been siphoning millions from client accounts, though I never expected that revelation would end with my own termination. Before we begin, Howard Richardson's voice cut through the tension. I have a matter to address. My father-in-law's steel-gray eyes fixed on me with the same disapproval they'd held since the day his son Michael brought home a Chinese-American accountant instead of the debutante he'd expected. I glanced at Michael, seated at his father's right hand. My husband wouldn't meet my eyes. It has come to my attention, Howard continued, that there have been irregularities in our books, discrepancies that point to potential embezzlement. The room fell silent. I kept my face neutral, though my heart raced. I'd been tracking those irregularities for months, building a case, following the money trail. I just need a few more days to. Emily Chen Richardson. Howard's voice thundered across the mahogany table. You are hereby terminated from your position as Chief Financial Officer of Richardson Global Investments, effective immediately. What? I struggled to keep my voice steady. On what grounds? Howard slid a folder across the table. Inside were transaction records, all manipulated to make it appear I had been stealing from client accounts. The forgeries were good, professional grade. Someone had gone to a lot of trouble to frame me. The evidence is quite clear, Howard said, satisfaction creeping into his voice. Unauthorized transfers, hidden accounts, all traced back to your credentials. I looked at Michael again. This time he met my gaze, but there was something wrong in his eyes. Something that made my blood run cold. Michael? I whispered. You know I would never. I'm sorry, Emily, he said, not sounding sorry at all. But the evidence, and with the baby coming, I can't risk. The baby, our first child, due in 4 months. The grandchild that was supposed to finally make me part of the family. Now I understood the timing. Security will escort you out, Howard announced. And Emily? Don't bother getting a lawyer. Our legal team has already prepared a full response to any potential litigation. Remember your prenup. As 2 security guards approached, I closed my laptop with deliberate calm. You might want to hold off on that celebration, Howard, I said quietly. The real audit results come in on Thursday. Howard's smirk faltered slightly. What audit? The independent forensic audit I commissioned 3 months ago. The one tracking all transactions for the past 5 years. Every single one. The color drained from Michael's face. Good. He remembered. He'd signed the authorization himself, not bothering to read the details because that's what I have you for, honey. You had no authority, Howard began. Actually, I did. Check bylaw 147.8. As CFO, I have full authority to commission independent audits if I suspect financial irregularities. And I suspected quite a lot. I stood smoothing my skirt. The auditors have been working remotely, accessing our systems through encrypted channels. Their report will be automatically sent to the SEC, the board, and our top clients on Thursday at 9 a.m. I'm sure it will make for interesting reading. Stop that audit, Howard demanded. I can't. Once initiated, only the audit team can stop it, and they answer to no one until their investigation is complete. I picked up my bag, enjoying the panic starting to spread across the room. Oh, and Howard, you might want to ask Michael about those offshore accounts in the Cayman Islands. The ones he opened using his grandmother's maiden name. Michael's sharp intake of breath was all the confirmation I needed. You're bluffing, Howard snarled. Am I? Guess we'll find out on Thursday. I turned to the security guards. No need to escort me. I know the way out. Walking through the Richardson Global offices for the last time, I kept my head high. Employees quickly looked away. News of my termination had already spread. Only Janet, my executive assistant, met my eyes. She gave me the smallest of nods, confirming that our contingency plan was in motion. In my car, thankfully in my name, not the company's, I pulled out my personal phone and dialed a number I'd memorized months ago. Agent Phillips, Emily Chen Richardson. Yes, it happened exactly as we predicted. You'll have full access to the records as soon as the audit report releases. I paused, listening. No, they have no idea that the SEC has been monitoring them for months, or that their perfect frame job just gave us the probable cause you needed. I ended the call and sat there for a moment, one hand resting on my barely visible baby bump. "Don't worry, little one," I whispered. "Mommy may have lost her job, but she's about to teach your father and grandfather a very expensive lesson about underestimating the wrong woman." Opening my laptop, I logged into my private server, the one not connected to Richardson Global's network. Janet would be downloading the backup files now, while everyone was distracted by my dramatic exit. In a few hours, she conveniently resigned, taking an unexpected family emergency leave. By tomorrow, she'd be working from my home office, helping me prepare for Thursday. My phone buzzed with a text from Michael. "Whatever you think you know, back off now. Think about the baby." I deleted it without responding. He played his last card, using our unborn child as leverage. Now it was my turn. The forecast called for rain on Thursday. Perfect weather for the storm I was about to unleash. The rain drummed against my home office windows early Thursday morning as I reviewed the audit report one final time. In 30 minutes, it would automatically release to all major stakeholders of Richardson Global Investments. Janet sat across from me, both our laptops synced to monitor the fallout. "They've called an emergency board meeting for 9:30, Janet reported, checking her insider sources. "Howard's apparently been there since dawn." I smiled, imagining the panic in that prestigious corner office. "Any word from Michael?" "He tried accessing the offshore accounts at 3 a.m. Got denied. Seems they've already been frozen." Of course they had. Agent Phillips wasn't the type to leave loose ends. At exactly 9 o'clock a.m., our screens lit up with multiple notifications. The audit report had dropped. "And now we wait," I murmured, one hand resting on my growing belly. "Let's see how long it takes them to reach the interesting parts." I didn't have to wait long. At 9:07, my phone exploded with messages. Board members, clients, reporters, all racing to understand the bombshell that had just landed in their inboxes. But it was the call from Howard that I'd been waiting for. "What have you done?" His voice trembled with rage. "Me? I simply did my job as CFO. You know, the position you accused me of abusing? I kept my tone professional, knowing Janet was recording everything. I assume you've reached page 47. The part of the systematic fraud orchestrated through shell companies registered to your late wife's family estate." Silence. "Then, we need to talk." "Now?" "Yes, we do. But not at your office." I named an address downtown. "The SEC's Boston field office. Agent Phillips is expecting us at 10:30. The SEC. You brought the feds into family business. Now there was fear mixed with the anger. "No, Howard. You and Michael brought them in when you decided to steal from your clients. I just helped them find the evidence." I ended the call and turned to Janet. "Time for phase 2. Send the files." She nodded, executing our prepared commands. Across Boston, Richardson Global's biggest clients were receiving detailed documentation of exactly how their accounts had been manipulated and how I had protected them from far greater losses. At 10:25, I walked into the SEC offices wearing the same outfit I'd worn when Howard fired me. Symbolic gestures matter, especially when reporters are watching. And there were plenty of reporters outside, alerted by strategic leaks about major fraud revelations at prestigious investment firm. Howard and Michael arrived at 10:35, their usual impeccable appearance showing signs of strain. Howard's tie was slightly crooked. Michael's hair wasn't perfectly styled. Small details that showed how their world was unraveling. "Before we begin," I said as we sat down in the conference room, "you should know that Agent Phillips has been building this case for months. I'm not the star witness. I'm just one of many." "Many?" Michael's voice cracked. "What are you talking about? Did you really think Janet was the only employee loyal to me, or that your grandmother's maiden name was clever enough to hide those accounts?" I turned to Howard. "Or that Mrs. Peterson would keep quiet forever about helping you backdate documents?" Mrs. Peterson, Howard's longtime executive assistant, had been the key. Once I showed her proof that her pension fund had been one of the accounts Howard drained, she told me everything. "Emily, please." Michael tried a different approach. "Think about our child. This scandal. It'll destroy the family name." "Interesting. Now you care about our child." I pulled out a letter. "This is from your lawyer. Dated 2 months ago, preparing to contest paternity and custody. Found it in your desk while gathering evidence. Were you planning to accuse me of infidelity along with theft? His face told me everything. Agent Phillips entered with her team, armed with arrest warrants and enough evidence to freeze every Richardson Global account. But I wasn't done. You know what the saddest part is? I said, watching federal agents lead my husband away. I actually tried to warn you both. 3 months ago, I showed you the initial signs of fraud. You dismissed them, saying I was being paranoid and should focus on preparing for the baby instead. Howard, handcuffs glinting on his wrists, turned to me. Why did you dig so deep? You had a perfect life, wealth, status. Because it was my job. Because your clients trusted us with their life savings. And because I stood up, letting them see my baby bump clearly. I wanted my child to inherit a legacy of honesty, not fraud. The next few weeks were a blur of legal proceedings, client meetings, and media coverage. Richardson Global's legitimate assets were frozen pending investigation. But thanks to my careful documentation, client accounts were protected. The board, desperate to salvage the company's reputation, made an unexpected move. We'd like you to take over as CEO, Rebecca Martinez, the new board chair, told me during a private meeting. Your actions saved this firm from complete collapse. Clients are actually praising your integrity. I considered the offer. The name would have to change. No more Richardson Global. She nodded. We were thinking Chen Investment Partners. 1 month later, I sat in what used to be Howard's office, my office now, looking out over the Boston skyline. The rain had finally cleared, much like the dark clouds that had hung over the company. Janet knocked and entered with our morning reports. The last client transfers are complete. We've retained 89% of the portfolio, way above projections. And the staff. Most are staying. Your transparency about the fraud and how you protected their jobs, it meant a lot. I nodded, reviewing the latest ultrasound photo on my desk. It was a girl. She'd never have to wonder if she disappointed her father or grandfather. They'd be in federal prison long past her college graduation. The press called it the perfect corporate takedown, but they missed the point. It wasn't about revenge. It was about doing what was right, even when it meant losing everything you thought you wanted. I kept one photo from my old life, my wedding day with Michael. It sits in my desk drawer as a reminder that sometimes the people closest to you can be the biggest threats to your integrity. But it also reminds me that standing up for what's right, even when it costs you everything, is worth it. The company thrived under its new name and leadership. We became known for our rigorous ethical standards and transparent operations. The industry that once whispered about the disgraced daughter-in-law now spoke of the washout of Wall Street. Michael wrote me one last letter from prison asking about our daughter. I replied with a copy of the company's new ethics policy, which requires all employees to sign a pledge. Integrity is not negotiable. As for Howard, he never reached out. But I heard he keeps a copy of the audit report in his cell, all 423 pages of it. Maybe he's finally taking the time to read the details he once dismissed as women's work. My daughter kicks as I finish signing the last document of the day, our new family leave policy, the most generous in the industry. That's right, little one, I whisper. This is your legacy now, built on truth, not lies, on strength, not fear. The sun sets over Boston Harbor, painting the sky in shades of possibility. On my desk, next to the family policy, sits a framed quote from my grandmother. The strongest walls are built by those who were once told they didn't belong. I built something stronger than walls. I built a future where my daughter will never have to choose between family loyalty and doing what's right, where she'll know that her mother stood up against corruption, even when it wore the mask of family love. And maybe years from now, when she sits in this office, if she chooses to, she'll understand that true legacy isn't about preserving a family name. It's about preserving your integrity, no matter the cost.